And we're live. This is why on Sundays this happens.
Aloha, everyone online. I hope you're all there and you're not ditching class. Anyway,
So we'd like you to report in on our chat line just to make sure you're there.
all right. So here we are, Patrick. Announcements.
Oh, announcements. We have tomorrow. We have Reverend Diane at 4 o'clock, and she's going to be doing it's conversation and inspiration, or something like that. A dose of inspiration. It's called something else. Now I had to change the title of that. And the reason why, here's why. Let's do a teaching moment here for everyone. She had a title that was called Treatment for Racism. Diane. So I got it, took it, and I put it out on the advertising, right? The marketing.
Not thinking a thing about it.
Not thinking anything of it until we get a call from a distant minister, a Facebook thing, messaging, who said, not to mention anything, but you don't treat for racism. You treat for the consciousness. And so that's why we were laughing about it, because I had to change it. So I was like, treating for the consciousness of peace in troubled waters. And I was just like, that was the title that went out. But what's so funny, we were just saying that we have, this is just our class. We haven't heard from her in 10 years, and this is the only thing she has to say to me. She goes, it's just a pet booger of mine. But a pet booger.
Don't mention any names.
What do you want? Okay. No. But anyway, because she's been in this teaching for about 30 years. So, and then when I told Diane was laughing because she said, well, actually, I know that I shouldn't be saying.
How do you know she was laughing? It was a text.
Anyway, welcome back again. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, there's going to be a discussion about racism called Treat Your Consciousness for Peace in Troubled Waters with Diane, Reverend Diane. So 4 o'clock. And then, you can have that one if you want. And then we are having the following week, Gina Pimentel is starting her tween group on. So if you know any tweens, 11 and 12, just let them know. There's 2 spots left, which is a great thing. And let me see. And then we're having our 5 Steps to Freedom on the
I have no idea.
18th. This is not going well at all tonight, just to let you know. Thank God it's not a Sunday. All I got to tell you is, go to the website. It's all there.
It might be correct. Okay. All right, Patrick, I'm done.
Who's online?
Who's online? Who's on first?
Anyone? Just in case you want to see the egg, just like going all the way down my face.
You know what? They might not have the chat.
I just sent it to DJ.
Okay.
So TJ's going to be online.
Yeah. DJ, Ron, Gina, and Ron Stover.
We have one person on.
Probably DJ.
What happened to Charles?
I don't know. Charles usually watches it online. But anyway, just give me a cup of coffee. Let's just chat. Let's just chat. But before we do that, you guys, this is going to be one of those evenings that we're going to remember. Phineas Quimby's here tonight. Phineas. Okay, so let's take a moment to, definitely center the energy. As we treat for the consciousness of this incredible evening. So just landing right here in this divine moment, I just allow myself to just immerse in this quantum field of energy, that divine frequency. And I just breathe it in and breathe it out. God is. I am. God is. I am. And what I know about this evening is that this is the incredible unfolding of an evening filled with just answered questions and things that need to be known are already known in the mind of good, and it just unfolds easily, effortlessly. Phineas Quinby and Reverend Rita do that wonderful dance of allowing one of the father of new thought to come forth this evening. And so I am so grateful for each and every person that is in this room. I am so grateful for everyone that is online or will be watching this, that something wonderful is happening. There is this power for good, and we get to use it, and it is being used right here and right now in this moment. So I just step out of the way now and let this incredible evening unfold with ease and grace and love and infinite intelligence. And I just let that be as I just drop it into the law, as together we say. And so it is. Yes, I needed that. So we're going to start, though, tonight, before I turn this over to our wonderful Rev Rita. We're going to talk a little bit about those pages. Did you get a chance to read them? Very incredible where all those people that were, I just got a text from Charles and he said, we have a lot of people that are behind this movement. I said, yeah, I mean, even when we were reading it for the first time, we were like, wow. So I just wanted to cover a few points, but first I just want to just get your viewpoint of, just reading it, any ahas or anything that came up for you. And then we're going to actually read one little section together. And
what I really enjoyed about the reading is the focus on demonstration that came up time and time again, in how he really focused on source being, spirit being the source, and not having, they talked about when they renovated the church and had a new building, we're not going to take on debt, where spirit will provide, like everything happened according to what he put out there and what he, it's done unto you as you believe. And I got that a lot from that reading. And it kind of helped me, because where I'm at is that I need to believe, not that I need to believe, but I need to recognize that I'm already there. I already have it. And the way that he phrased it in the demonstrations, from his travels and all of these things, and how it all just falls into place. It made me kind of look back at how things have fallen into place for me in the past, even without the concentration and learning that I have had since becoming part of, Center for Spiritual Living Kauai. And kind of look towards where my demonstrations are. So that was what was really beautiful about reading through it. It just kind of reminded me of the demonstrations that happened in my life already, and look forward to, manifesting those demonstrations now even stronger, because I know I have much more knowledge and faith that it'll work out.
They were relentless, Bitzer and that group, relentless. And that's what I think, just jumping right on Jamie, what she just said, is that relentless is a good word, because what they did was, some people call it stubborn, but they just were like, no. It's either principle or it's not. This either is or it isn't. If it doesn't work, then I want to know it, and let's just do it, because I'm not going to. I was thinking of Melissa, because there was one part in there that they talked towards the end about the board. I was thinking of the board when they were trying to, have everybody sign the note for the building and do all of this, and Holmes, and they were all like, no, they are not going to be a part of that thing, because we were talking about being on the board. If something happens, are you responsible? And that changed so long ago, and I just was so great to see that, because they went, oh my God, that was way back, because they wanted them to be responsible for the building, and they were like, no.
So the thing that was interesting to me was that about no physical contact.
Oh, yeah.
And otherwise you're getting into physical vibration, and you will break your spiritual mind contact. And also, like what they said, what should I do? Nothing. The practitioner does the work. So,
It's very true.
But it's kind of like, so you don't have to be sort of on the same wavelength? You can just be thinking about eating jujubes or something? You know?
Well, think about it. You're not the one doing it. The practitioner's the one doing it. So it's not like you have to think a certain thought. You just need to sit there and receive. So if I don't know. I don't think Ernest Holmes is just saying he's not going to direct somebody on what to think. I mean, if he took the statement further, probably he'd say, "Well, just be receptive and just
Right,
sit there and
yeah.
receive." Yeah, but how you can't stop anybody. So, well, you might be because as Deb Valentina said, there's a lot of thoughts out there, but nobody's thinking. So, I thought that was
just
so
thought that was so brilliant.
great. So
but
you
no,
can-
I get what Melissa is
saying.
saying, because we had this very good conversation about receptivity. And I remember with Dr. James, when we were studying with him, he finally, excuse me, at one point said, we need to really listen during the treatments. Because what happens is you do tend to do it like I used to do in Catholicism. The priest would be up there and he'd be going, and you're like, off into another world. I know none of that happens when we pray, but I'm just trying to say, but I do know that people go, oh, they're doing the beginning treatment, so that just means that blah, 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 they're opening up. So, but what they're trying to say is, what I tell someone, if you don't believe it, that was the debate we had, not debate, but conversation we had about that. Somebody walks in and they're not really wanting to change, that's why they're coming to us. I mean, they want to change, but they can't because they're confused and this is going on. So they need clarity. So my thing is, they go, well, how am I supposed to believe that, Patrick? And I've said it a million times. Can you believe that I can believe it 100%? And they say yes, usually. Yes, 100%. Then that's where we start. Because I'm the one doing the treatment. I'm the one seeing it, feeling it, accepting it. And you and I live in the same quantum field. So that's why it works. Now, I agree with you on that it is much better to have, that's why I'm always clear in sessions to say, before you walked in here, I already saw it complete. This is happening right here and right now. So anyway.
But also think about it. You're not in a conversation with a person. You're directing the energy, the law. You're not like, you don't want to go down to the level. That's why you never use you, because you're not in a conversation. But of course, if you're sitting there and receptive and listening to the words that are spoken, I'm sure it can be very helpful, right?
Yeah,
But
you could
he's
negate
just
it. You could negate whatever they're saying, too. Right.
that's fine too. Then it will demonstrate.
So then it's kind of a waste.
Well, you remember what I always say is that you're the one that booked the appointment. And so this is what I do know. The moment that you book an appointment, it already is in the quantum field, and it starts the activation the moment you do. It's the same as going to a doctor when you don't feel good, and you finally make the doctor's appointment, and then in the car you don't even know why. You just don't have a sore throat. You're ready to go out to a restaurant to have something to eat, because we're going to find out with Phineas tonight. I think the world is one big placebo. It's done unto you as you believe, no matter what's occurring out there. And when we find that out, all these great people that have gone before us, we're going to find out. And to me, that just tells us we have incredible power. So, what else did you get out of this, Peggy?
We are so done.
They talked about the most important idea was the thought of the time was the definiteness. In other words, you just didn't kind of sit around and expect spirit to kind of fix your situation, but you had to have a thought and the intention to be able to focus that. And I thought that was really important because it's kind of simple, but it's really the essence of it all.
I'm so glad once again. Hello. I've used Bitzer before we even got the Bitzer essays, and that's exactly it, because he used to say in his talks on Sunday, he would say, and then they came to me and they said they don't know if they want to go on vacation, and they're waiting for spirit. They're waiting for spirit. They're going to be waiting a long time. because you have to make the decision, and then the Spirit's going to back you. I mean, it's so clear, right? But what we want sometimes is to people, because of our programming, to make the decision for us. Because I always know that when I was a young man, I used to go, Mom, what do you think? And I was like 19, 20, moving around, going to New York. And then when she would tell me, I would be so upset with her opinion anyway. And I would go, no, that's not it. I can really do well in New York. And she said, well, then why did you bring it to me? I don't understand. She goes, as long as you're wish-washy, nothing can ever happen. I remember her telling me, wish-washy. He calls it nilly-willy, our Ernest Holmes. So I love that spirit, because spirit is what we already are. And the law is what waiting for us to make the move. And what's great is if the move doesn't feel right, then we can make it again. We just shift it. We pivot. We say, oh no, you know what? It's not feeling right. Wait a minute. But I know a lot of people, I know spirit, and I'm not making fun of people that do that, but I do hear it a lot. I'm not sure, I'm just waiting to see what spirit wants for me. And that's okay, but it takes a while, instead of using your power right off the bat. Sue? What do you mean, no? Did you read it? There we go. Why do you even try to go around Rev Patrick? Here, you need this now.
He certainly didn't mind SOMing people.
Who?
Remember when he was in the restaurant and they didn't get good service, and he said, someone here believes in procrastination.
The other one is someone that waitress came and said, do you wish for coffee?
Do you wish for coffee? He goes, is this place somewhere where I have to wish? Don't even
But I'm sure, knowing him though, because he was actually a really sweet person. I mean, he really was a kind, loving person. He probably did it with like a very smile sparkle in his eyes.
did it like that.
No, forget that guy. That guy was not sweet. He was.
So, I know we probably said this last week, but what was the name of this book that this was drawn from?
It's called the Essays of Robert Bitzer, but it comes from the New Thought series. I can send you it but you can't get it.
Oh, because that was my next question. What,
Yeah,
what the
I mean,
copyright
good luck.
date was.
I tried to get more copies of it.
Okay.
The essays are incredible, and Patrick and I always read one
So
every
was
morning.
was this written like in the 30s, 40s? Do you know?
Well,
when?
obviously it's
Copyright
written.
date?
No, probably later because was it written then? No, I don't know. No, he wasn't. Think about it. Ernest Holmes died 60s. This was probably 50s or no, because Ernest Holmes was young, so it was probably like in the 40s or
30s
something,
or
right?
40s, yeah.
30s and 40s.
Because what I'm reading is so much is still absolutely the same, and so much, is different. A lot of the CSL churches do crystals and, have all of that kind of stuff. And I like the idea that every church, and I think that's one of the things I really like about this center, is that this is our center. And you two have brought it up and directed it, but we don't have to be like any other center.
No.
In the world.
In reality,
Yeah.
all that stuff is great, and there's nothing wrong with crystals. There's nothing wrong with any of it. But it doesn't really belong in a Science of Mind center.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah, I think our organization would like us to be a little bit more, to be in, the brand of them, but we're not going to be doing. It just, there's a model. I don't know. Rita and I wanted to be successful, so we never really did that.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either. But they say it all the time, but we're not.
But they're talking about the physical branding, our logo, which is you're not allowed supposedly to have a logo other than that one, Yeah.
So the heart thing I send out all the time? Yeah. Yep. 7:32, you're started. Go ahead.
Oh, what I felt
from Bitzer is that he believed so much that I think he would take a bullet for Dr. Holmes.
Oh, look at you.
Yes,
I
he
think
would.
I think that he would take a bullet for this philosophy as well. Okay, it's going to be 7:35 then if
At
you're
the
going to
end,
talk.
he says, principle will never let us down, and we shall never stop using it, understanding its laws, the way it works, and never doubt to or deviate. Metaphysics has already changed the way of life, the way life is unfolding. So what I'm trying to say is that this is not a willy-nilly philosophy. It's not an unproven philosophy, because there's years and years of people proving it, years and years of people using the law of mind, using spiritual mind treatment, and having demonstrations. I mean, it's not like they just pulled it out of the air or something. And as we're learning with all the different people we're studying, it has a real deep-rooted background in science and metaphysics, psychology. I mean, it's all like it's deeply rooted in discovery and the study of the mind and how it works, right? So if it's not working in our lives, then we're not doing something right. We're the ones that are responsible for it not working.
Right.
So when I give a treatment and I don't get a demonstration, it's me. I know it because I know that it works. So I'm the one that has missed something, and I take responsibility for that. So I have to figure out what that is. I have to figure out what I'm holding on to that maybe I don't want to let go of. It's like in the reading, I don't know if any of you read the Science of Mind text, but the whole week's been a lot about healing and stuff. And he says you can't heal somebody that's not willing to let go of the cause back of whatever it is. If they're not willing to let go of the cause, you can't do it.
Yeah, that's what
So-
Melissa was talking about,
yeah,
if you're not
so-
willing to do it. So I want them to read the treatment thing, so I'm going to
Yeah,
do that
go
now.
ahead.
So one other thing what'd you think of that heart attack story? He's like laying
Don't
on
call
the
the doctor.
floor, and they're going,
Just keep praying.
just treat. I'm going, dude, if I'm on the ground, I need you to call 911.
Well, we
I
weren't with the person, but we did a couple of those things over the past couple of weeks. We just kept going, just keep praying, just keep praying. Every time we doubt, we do, just keep treating, and it did work.
What?
It did work. The
Right.
person got better.
No, that's the thing that I think that we can be taught by this. What we read is that they were relentless, and they didn't take no for an answer. They didn't go, I don't understand it. I did 12 treatments. I did 100 treatments, and then nothing worked. They say, well, then do 101. And you'll eventually strip yourself from whatever is in the way, whatever's causing that in the field. So on page... let's word this treatment. I just want us to read it together. Just want to see where I wrote. Oh, I think it's on 17.
Page 17.
13, 14. I'll tell you where to start. 14, 15. Yeah. Start reading. Would you gonna all just? Huh? Just take a. Sorry. Oh, also, Rob would like who's ever watching to check in on the chat line so that we know who's there. Okay. Do they have to have a? Is it the chat? Chatango. CHATANGO. CSL Kauai 3 dot Chatango.
CSL
CHATA.
Kauai 3 chat tango with 1 T.
Wasn't that what I just
.com.
said? Wow. You guys are going to see another side to us. No, it's been, so here we go. 17, and it's the first, it starts with, from my earliest relationship with Dr. Holmes. Okay, Jamie, start there, and we're just going to take some paragraphs. You have it, right? Okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
From my earliest relationship with Dr. Holmes, it became very clear that he assumed a personal responsibility for everything that happened to him. We were having lunch at a very nice place in Boston, but the service was slow. He spoke up. Someone at this table believes in procrastination. No condemnation, but never admitting to the existence of a cause outside ourselves. I carry this a step further. Procrastination is subconsciously creating delay because of our belief in unpreparedness.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most important ideas that Dr. Holmes added to the thought of the time was that of definiteness. Definiteness. It's weird. Prior to this, the movement had lacked definiteness. Students and teachers sat around waiting for Spirit to tell them what to do or to cause things to happen. Science of Mind stresses we are surrounded by a universal mind that is creative by nature. It accepts what we think into it and causes our thought to happen. He developed a technique of treatment or scientific prayer based on thought such as, quote, there is but one mind, God or Spirit, everywhere present in its entirety of being, end quote.
This power becomes to us what we believe when we believe that it becomes to us what? Let me start over.
You were right.
This power becomes to us what we believe when we believe that it becomes to us what we believe. Each of us is the creative center of his or her own individualized universe. The success of our method depends upon our complete dependence upon our spiritual mind absoluteness. Thus, we do not touch the person for whom we are giving the healing. There is no laying on the hands, no manipulation or massage, no emotional touch or embrace. The work can be done silently or audibly. The practitioner can sit at a desk with a student opposite or in a chair away from the desk. The thing to remember is no physical contact. Otherwise, you are getting into physical vibration and you will break your spiritual mind contact. Remember, it is consciousness that heals.
Oh.
One time when Dr. Holmes gave me a long, silent treatment, I asked what I should be thinking. He replied, anything you want to think. I am giving the treatment. On one occasion, Hazel Holmes was doing some treatment work for me. After she finished, I asked, now what shall I do? She smiled and did not answer. I repeated my query. Finally, she said, did not anybody ever tell you to let the practitioner do the work? She had also a Christian Science background of study and was an outstanding practitioner.
As a student of metaphysics and later as a minister, I had a very fine relationship with the leaders in the field. The dedicated student soon discovers there are no inferior people and that there are no superior people. There are just people, and they are to us what we think. Emerson said, when you are in the presence of greatness, you too are great. God in me is one with God in you. One mind, one spirit, one life, one God. This is the key to getting along with people. Maintain your consciousness on the God level and do not deviate from that. Critics tried to convince Winston Churchill to do the opposite. They urged him to be all things to all people, to meet them on their own level. Take up their weapons, fight fire with fire. I can't finish because I don't have a page 19. The great diplomat
The great diplomat. Oh, there you go.
replied, let me see you sting a bee. When you depend on divine principle, you never stoop to anyone's level, person's level, but bring all experiences up to where you are.
Exactly. Read it there. Okay, so no matter what you are attempting to do without glasses. Oh, can you read the next one, please?
No matter what you are attempting to do, always get the vision before you begin to work. See the completed demonstration. If you are buying a house, think of it as fully furnished and completely paid for. Even though you may take out a mortgage on it, treat that it is completely paid for. For the first property our church bought, we worked that way. Instead of waiting 20 years to pay off the mortgage, we did it in 8 years.
Exactly. So One thing I want to go back to, and then I'm going to give it over to Rita because she has a lot of Phineas. But I love this. When you depend on divine principle, you never stoop to any person's level, but bring all experiences up to where you are. Now, how important is that we know that in our day-to-day lives, do we not? Because we were talking the other day, some colleagues during the paneling and during that whole week-long thing with that Michelle for the ministerial panels. And we were talking about a lot of times your vibration is a really high frequency. And then you want to kind of come down and have the conversation with them, but we don't want to really actually do that. We want to bring not you up to act differently, but to stay in that high vibration so that, especially when treating. So it wouldn't matter if someone's crying or going out. That's fine too. You let that go. And you maintain not a holier than now. You contain the frequency that is so high that that vibration is moving in the quantum field and is actually changing, moving your energy without us even knowing it or experiencing it. But what happens to a lot of times, see it with ministers, they will kind of want to be with you. And because that's empathetic, but that's not what we need to do. None of us need to do that. You know what I'm talking about. You're with your friends, and they're going through something. So what you want to do, what I invite us to do, is to listen at a high frequency, a very high frequency. Charles is in the room. So with a high frequency, does that make sense? Because I think a lot of times, you know what I'm talking about. You know when you go home at the end and you want, wow, my frequency, I'm all like depleted and everything. Why? It's because you didn't stay in your frequency and you unplugged all that beautiful energy of yours, thinking you were actually assisting the person that you were with. So I really got that very clear, that when you're in a position of being able to, at a high frequency, stay there, is basically the message.
On a different level, and you can tell that they're, I think you need your vibration or your frequency to be up there, because you have to believe, right? There's a belief, and if you do believe it, it really comes out. I see that in Rev Diane and Michelle a lot. I mean, other than you guys, of course.
Yeah, no, I take it for, yeah. No, nobody's vibrating at the frequency that Mr. Feren is, if you understand what I'm saying. Just letting you know. No, I get it. But it can't be, and if it's not authentic, then you're going to know it. It can't just be like, we could do this, wow. No, it has to be like, no, you don't, let's vibrate right now. We did some work together, just to chit chat the other day, and it was just beautiful. Just to talk about, what everyone's capable of, because you are it. It's like the universe is backing you, and all you have to do is just say it. And with that note, is somebody writing something? We've been having a very interesting evening, Charles. How are you doing?
Amazing. I'm sorry, I just had a
massage?
photo op.
Oh. Did you like that way to? Just had a photo op for my new website. I was just, what? That's a high frequency.
Are you ready for me to
I am, but he's writing a note right now. So we've been discussing, and I actually said you sent a text saying that we had.
getting very impatient.
I was saying that you texted and said what a great page those pages were, because you could tell how many great people we had. Ron, that's called the money ball in sports. Is that Ron LeMay? Yeah, you're biting at the bit to get those sports people playing, aren't you, Ron? Thank you. Money ball. That's the money ball. And now I'm turning. Oh, see? Now I'm getting out of the way. My bloated nothingness. Out of the way, and I'm allowing Phineas to stop talking. So it is. There we go. It's all yours, Rita. Give it up for Ms. Phineas Quimby.
Stop. My big dramatic start did not work. Oh, shut up, Phineas. Shut up.
Some nights are a little smoother than other nights, but you know what? When you're with family,
Hold on.
where's your vibration now? Let's get that vibration up there.
All right, I gotta wait for a minute now. Hold on, guys. I don't know what the heck happened. Besides that, for some reason, I must not know. Now I lost PowerPoint. What happened to it?
I guess you need a little bit more of Patrick right now. Yes.
Well, very interesting that my
Oh.
PowerPoint is up there, but it's not here.
He wants to take the book down.
Yeah, take the book down.
Now this better be Jesus, you guys, it's like one of those blooper shows tonight. It's like,
Nothing's cooperating.
what's happening to us? Aren't you glad we didn't turn this into your assignment book? Okay, we'll show it. This is Phineas's book. Look how thick it is. And look. No. And look at the font. 11.
Well, I
What?
have a slight problem.
What?
Well,
Oh,
what's
he's
up-
talking again.
No, but what's up there is not what's here. Come and look at this, Charles. Is your? Oh no, I found it. Never mind.
Charles. So anyway, and then if this is not, then if you don't really want to read this, you can use this as a weight to bring up. Look at that. This is his, all of his complete writings. I love this. His complete writings and beyond. And beyond. What happened was he didn't really
All right,
write
I'm
books.
ready, I think. Is it up there now? Yes. Thank you.
Good night, all. I don't want to lose our credibility.
Do you wish, reader, to take a trip to the world beyond the narrow limit of man's wisdom? Give me your hand and close your eyes from the natural world and rise into space out of sight and hearing of the bustle of the world. View the vast space and sit till you see things come as it were, standing on nothing. See the things created by the Almighty Power and things created by man. Look upon the earth and ask what the inhabitants know of this state. This is the world they fear and falsely worship. I have said I differ from all others. I have seen the effect of their beliefs. I have broken their hold on my mind, passed their finite bounds, and landed in an open space. Now return and make your knowledge practical by destroying the beliefs of men in their opinions. My theory, being in opposition to the world, is based on the fact that man's misery is in his belief. The world is in opposition to truth. Give me your hand and close your eyes from the natural world.
Okay. Silent. Yes.
Well, pins and needles.
You're going to hear words tonight like wisdom, which is another word for God, science, which is another word for God, truth, which is another word for God, and then you're going to hear other words that are less than that, the natural man, all of that stuff that is just what he considers the world of conditions, really, or the world of falsity. And yeah. So did you get anything out of that? Listening to that? Everything stun you?
Well, it certainly calmed everybody down.
I know, everybody's like, yes, Charles.
What I got from it is that that mankind is their biggest opposition is their beliefs, but also that's their greatest powers as well.
Right. Well, it's really interesting because I remember this gentleman when I went to the New Thought conference in Toronto, Jonathan Zenz, when he was at that center. And a guy stood up and said, a minister stood up and said, all beliefs are false. And we were like, what? But all beliefs are just beliefs. And they're true or false to you, right? But they're not they're false. I mean, they're false. And what he meant by that is that they're true or false. There is no such thing as, oh, this is a true belief and this is a false belief. All beliefs are just subjective. So if man is his belief, then your life is created by what you hold and believe, and your thoughts are backed by that. But anyway, we'll go more further into it. But but that was why Phineas Quimby was called the father of New Thought, or the founder of New Thought, was because he basically was the one that totally started mind healing, spiritual mind healing. Phineas was born in 1802 in New Hampshire, and he had a very poor background. His dad was a blacksmith, and there were 7 children in his family, and he finally ended up in Maine. And what's really interesting about this is that this is where our teaching started. Emerson, and it was all on the East Coast, and yet there's no churches there, which are very few. There's one in Boston, I think, and there's one in New York, very small. But it's not like the West Coast where they're just filled the whole West Coast. I still have not figured that out. The church in New York that was built by Emmett Fox is basically down to 10 people or something. I mean, it's just it didn't take off there for some reason, and I don't know why that is. What?
Are you talking about New Thought or Center
Yeah,
for
I'm talking
Spirit?
about Science of Mind.
Science of Mind?
Yeah.
Even
Go put the zip codes in of the East Coast and see how many churches there are. There are really none. And there's none in Maine, and there's none in New Hampshire that I know of. And there's one in Boston that's fairly big, or in Massachusetts, but just didn't, for some reason, has not stuck there. I didn't even think about it. Ernest Holmes stayed in New York for a while, but he ended up going to L.A. That was where he migrated to with his brother. So Phineas had very minimal education. He was a clockmaker, an inventor, and it said that he had 4 patents, and one of them which was signed by Andrew Jackson. So he had very meager beginnings, nothing spectacular. Like I said, he was very poor and very little education. So has anybody heard this story? Okay. Well, basically what happened, he in his early 30s, he was very serious, had serious consumption, as we know many people there had, and he was really, really sick. And he had a friend who had taken to horseback riding, who had consumption, and had taken to horseback riding, and his friend told him that made him feel better, and that it had gotten rid of his consumption by going horseback riding. So Phineas thought, oh, well, I'll try that. And in the meantime, he had been prescribed this stuff called calomel. I looked it up. It was like a mercury type of medication or something that was making him so sick and weak that he could hardly stand it. So he thought, okay, I'll try this. But he couldn't get on the horse to ride it because he was too weak. So he thought, well, instead I'll take a carriage and I'll drive this carriage and maybe that'll just do as well. So he got in the carriage, but then the horse balked, is that what it's called? And so he got out and started pulling the horse to get going. And then somebody came and helped him. And then all of a sudden he said he got very excited, got on the horse and rode it to the top of the hill, and he never had a problem after that. Now it's documented in his stuff. He didn't make a big deal out. Yeah, it was so I thought about this in regards to Corona. The only reason I thought about it is because one of the things we've been hearing from people that have it is that people that have recovered, it's come by us several times, was the idea of breathing. to breathe deeply. Even if it hurts, to breathe. Somebody brought themselves out of it just by breathing. Somebody said to her, just keep breathing. The doctor said.
Her doctor told her to.
So I just wondered, when I read the story, it kind of made me think that maybe it was just being out in the air and actually breathing that actually, got him through the through the
And breathing
lack of breath,
deeply, because he
consumption
had to
is about
hold
lack
the
of breath.
horse and
Yeah.
really pull.
Yeah,
so
and
it
he
was,
said he got really excited and just jumped on the horse and rode it to the top of the hill or back home or wherever he was going. Anyway, he never talked much about this besides that it was written that this happened. And you see, he didn't really write. He did write, but he didn't put this book, that big thick book,
it's,
where is it?
Behind it. Do you need to look at it?
No, I just want to take it out because it inspires me. It's like it inspires me.
Rob told me to get rid of it. so
Man
I
is
just-
his belief. And I believe in this book. Okay. I've not read this book. I've read passages of it, but it's very hard to read. But this book was his notes, basically. And the people that came after him, his son and different other people, put it together. And but he did not write. He was too busy to write. Yeah, so. Anyway, so we know that who Anton Mesmer is, right? But I will go back over it because he's very influential to Phineas in the beginning. So the German physician, there was a natural energetic transference that occurred between all animated and inanimate objects that he called animal magnetism. He harnessed the energy in magnetic tubes and placed it on the bodies of his patients. Later, he healed through laying on of hands. And then he believed he was the conduit. And later he began to speak to the patients, and the concept of mental suggestion began to be mesmerized, hypnotism, cures by means of mental force. Now, by the time came to the United States, they were I don't know if they were calling it hypnotism, but that's what they were doing. They were basically hypnotizing people. So what happened to Phineas is that he went to a talk. And he didn't really know he didn't know anything about mesmerism, but he had gone to this talk and it got his attention. And so he started to study it. And he said that he started to study it. And then he met this guy named Lucius Berkmar. Is this familiar to anybody, or am I telling you something totally new?
I think he's pretty not known to most of the people.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad.
this
So it's
is
going to be
not-
it's going to be a news story. So he's fascinating. So he met this gentleman named Lucius Berkmar who was doing these mesmeric sessions. He was a clairvoyant, and let's see what I got. Okay, so what he would do is he would put Lucius into a trance using the mesmer technique. And then he would bring people to him that were ill. And what Lucius would do would be he would be able to diagnose what was wrong. And it would always match up to what the doctor said. And then he would prescribe a medication or something for them to take. And so that was the way he worked at the beginning. He used put this person in a trance and just let him basically tell what was going on. So, what he found was that, in the third point, medicines prescribed by Berkmar with no physical value cured patients of diseases. So he started to make a connection that perhaps it was what we call the placebo today, or perhaps it was just because of what the doctor said and the patient was going along with that. But he continued to do it, Phineas, and he actually was working, at that point he was working with the physicians. He was actually helping them, like he would put people into a trance, Phineas would, and they'd go through anesthesia, and the doctors were like, okay, they can't feel any pain. He would put them into this trance and they'd be able to, like, the doctor said I could have amputated a leg and the person wouldn't have felt it. So it's kind of interesting, right? So, so this is what he thought. I found this picture over here, but it doesn't really have anything to do with Phineas, but it's about thought transference, I know. They called it thought transference. Quimby had two doubts as to whether Lucius' clairvoyant report of the patient's condition was really true to the facts or the result of his perception through the thought transference of what either the physician or himself thought was the patient's condition. In other words, was he reading the patient's thoughts of what the physician told him? So this got him thinking whether it was the prescribed remedy which really affected the cure or whether it was just the placebo. So he started to think, okay, so this person is, Lucius is telling what's going on in this person's mind, but is it really going on, or is it really a physical fact, or is it just the thoughts that he has about it that the doctor told him that's creating the whole thing? So now he didn't deny that disease was real, because he said if somebody has disease, they have disease. He saw it there, but he just got this idea that perhaps it was because of what the patient was told that created the disease, and then it went into a dense, form of physical. So now, what ended up happening is Quimby was apparently sick again. Now, this one is really documented. He had serious kidney issues, and he was so sick, he said, that he didn't want to tell Lucius that he had this kidney condition, but one day Lucius was in a trance, and all of a sudden he started talking about, and Melissa's falling asleep. Are you all right? Isn't that boring? You're just tired? Okay, I'm sorry, honey. All right. I'm sorry. Okay. So anyway, Quimby had this serious kidney condition, which he thought he could not be cured of, okay? But he had put Lucius in a trance about something else, and then all of a sudden, he started talking about Quimby's kidney thing and started reading it. And then what ended up happening is that I want to make sure I say it right. What ended up happening is he prescribed a medication for it. No, he told him that he could heal him of this kidney condition. And he told him he was going to take, it was spiritual. What do you call it? Spiritual surgery. What is it called? Spiritual surgery. He told him he would take that there was a disconnected piece in his kidney, and that he was going to mentally put it together for him. And I know. And so basically, he was cured. Now this one was documented. He was cured. So his conclusion was his illness and healing was only mental, that it wasn't really so. It was something that a doctor had told him and then told him he could never be cured. And as soon as Lucius told him he could be cured, then he believed Lucius probably because of all the other things that they had. Anyway, so that was interesting. I know. Then he had this other experience. He said, again, thought transfer. I realized that I could make my subjects read my thoughts, and here was a new discovery. So he would think
Would you
things.
keep that a little closer to? I feel like your battery's out in your thing.
I'm not. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Sometimes it goes over.
So basically, what he would do is he would think things up in his head. Phineas, he would think things up like some ridiculous animal, and he would think this thing up, and it would be really funny, and then all of a sudden Lucius would start laughing, and he would talk back to him and say, "Oh, something about this animal," and he just look at me puzzled. He said, because it's crazy,
telepathy.
right?
It's
telepathy. It's clairvoyance and mental telepathy. Quimby came to believe that man has the power to create ideas and make them so dense that they can be seen by a subject who is mesmerized. So, in other words, I'm thinking something, and I have you in a hypnotic trance, and you can actually think what I'm thinking or see what I'm thinking, basically. So he continued. He continued experimenting and concluded that he could affect mind whether in a mesmeric state or not. So he decided he said, I can affect mind. I don't have to put a person in hypnotic trance. I can do it anyway. Man is made up of truth and belief. Disease is a mistaken belief based on what doctors said, and a correct belief. If there's a correct belief, the cure will take place. So, in other words, it's done unto you as you believe, right? So, mind is something that can be changed. because the lower mind takes orders, it does not reason. So in other words, he's talking about conscious mind as opposed to subconscious mind, right? And Ernest Holmes, who said, there are not two minds, this was on their test, they all missed it on the ministerial exam. They couldn't explain this. There are not, they didn't all miss it, but a lot of them did. You know, we did those panels this week. And this was one of the quotes. There are not two minds, but two states of consciousness, conscious mind and subjective mind. So these were things that Phineas had discovered. He didn't say it like that. It's what, go ahead.
So there's the conscious mind and the subjective.
Right.
So there's the conscious mind and the subjective mind. So the subjective mind is the subconscious mind?
The subjective mind is the subconscious mind. And it's not like we have two minds. We just have two states of consciousness, right?
Right.
We have a conscious mind, objective mind, they call it,
Yeah.
or we have our subconscious.
So-
So Phineas was dealing with the subconscious, right?
Yeah.
Because all the beliefs and everything were stored there, and all the things the doctors had told people were stored there. Yes. Yeah.
You know, I study hypnotism a little bit, you could say. With the, did he use hypnotic languaging, or did he just use the person's belief in order to talk to their subconscious? Because if they don't have to be in a trance, how did he talk to their subconscious
We're
mind?
going to get to that, but
Yes, okay.
I don't know. It didn't say what his trances were like, but I don't know in mesmeric trances if they use the same thing they do today to put somebody under. But what I did read about him is he would stare into people's eyes or use some type of object, and the person would go into a mesmeric state. Yeah, but it didn't really explain that. Yes? Did you want to say something? Okay. So he left mesmerism because he realized that he could do this without putting them in a hypnotic state. Man has the power to create ideas that make them so dense that they can be seen, or to reverse this process and cause them to disappear. It is truth that heals, and the individual mind that perceives and holds to truth will be in health and good order and reflect that health and good order to others. So it's truth that heals. That was his thing. It was truth that heals. And he blamed everything on doctors. He liked doctors at first, but he blamed everything on doctors and priests. He said people that would come to him were so in fear of religion that they were like sick. And so he called it priestcraft. And priestcraft. He was pretty dramatic. He felt like the medical profession and the doctor and the priests were responsible for the people that came to him that were sick. So, you know, it's all whatever. So he left mesmerism. Disease was an error in the mind. He did not say it was imagination. If a man feels pain, he knows he feels it. There is no imagination about it. He went into healing practices without trances or spiritualism. And if you know what spiritualism is, at the time, it was when you receive impressions from the other world, is called spiritualism, or from the dead. Yeah, at that time they were doing that. And sometimes they used that for healing, I guess. But he left all that, and he hated it if he was like, if people accused him of being a spiritualist, he was like, no, I have nothing to do with that. And anyway, he trained himself to become a clairvoyant, or he realized he was, and that truth was the cure. But he said everybody's clairvoyant. We can all develop that thing. And I know you know it because you can be thinking something, and then you pick up the phone, and your friend, and you pick up the phone, and there he is, right? So, you know, we all have that power, and that's what he said. We all have that power to be clairvoyant. So he left mesmerism behind and just actually became what we would call today, I think, a medical intuitive. If you've ever heard of them, they still exist. Intuitive. They're people that can diagnose disease just by talking with a patient. They don't, that's one thing, I don't know if it's on later the slides, but I want to make it clear. He didn't have the patient come in and tell him anything. The patient never told him anything about the disease. He sat down with the patient and he told the patient. And then the patient would say, oh, yes, that's the truth. He didn't go in and go, now, what did the doctor tell you, and blah, blah, blah. He would sit down and just read them, basically, and say, oh, you know, you have whatever, I don't know, diabetes or whatever, or, you know, you're really nervous, you da-da-da-da, whatever. He would tell them, and then he would say, and I see that you're taking like blah, 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 and they were. So he was reading their mind, right?
So interesting.
I know, right? It's fascinating. He's like fascinating. What?
There was a book that was recommended to me not too long ago, written by Louise Hay, where at the back of the book, she has like an emotional condition, and then there's a physical condition that is related to it.
Right.
Is it something? Thank you so much. Okay, you can heal your life.
Right, you can heal your life.
And is that something that he had made a system for as well?
I think that,
I'm not
I
sure.
think I've been using that book since 1972.
But Ernest Holmes
and-
even has chapters in the Science of Mind that say similar. Like they'll if you look in the physical perfection section, he'll go through, not quite as in depth as Louise Hay, but he'll have like treatment for insomnia, treatment for insanity, treatment for false growth, treatment for blah 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 blah, and he'll go to what the emotion is surrounding it. I don't think that's exactly what he was doing, but let's go a little further.
Yeah.
What did you want to say?
No,
Bill?
that was it. Yeah.
No, don't be sorry. But yeah, well, maybe you'll make the conclusion after we're all done that is what he was doing. So disease was an error in the mind, and then it was real because it wasn't that you didn't have the disease. You definitely had it. I'm doing a Suzanne Benoit now. I'm just excited. Okay.
No, because
Okay.
she's talking and then she goes like this.
I know. Okay.
She gets a little excited with Phineas.
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you.
It was a long road for Quimby to travel from where he started out as a believer in the medical practice, which he was, to a student of mesmerism, to faith in an inner or higher self immediately open to divine presence, which is its guiding wisdom, quickening. He called it the mind of Christ. Like he felt like the way he healed was the way Christ healed. And the other thing about him, he never, other than mesmerism, he didn't study anything else. Like he made this up himself. Like he intuited this himself. He didn't like, oh, I'm studying Swedenborg now, and I'm studying Emerson or whatever. In fact, it says that he didn't. He went into his own intuitive mind and came up with this way of healing people. So, a statement about himself, from himself. Dr. Quimby talks in third person. Dr. Quimby's writings are not to establish any religious creed or bolster up any belief of man, but they are simply the outpouring of a truth that sees the sick cast into a prison for no other cause than a belief in the opinions of man. They're there to linger out a miserable existence, driven from society into the dark cell of disease where no friend is allowed to enter to soothe their woes. The knowledge of this condition is known to Quimby from their own feelings and calls forth his place in their behalf. So like I said, he only does it from their feelings. Yes?
So he was a doctor?
Well, that's an interesting thing. No, he was not. I think he was, no, he never went to school. He taught himself this.
Well, none of them did.
No.
No.
Well, I know Mesmer did. He was like a doctor, right? No, but I don't know whether, I think, I know he wasn't a doctor. He probably got called doctor because he was healing people left and right? So, yes.
It just, as you're reading this, it reminds me of Edgar Casey.
Oh, probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Edgar Casey has a similar way of
Yep, absolutely.
treatments. Quimby stands to the sick as an attorney to a criminal, a friend. So he pleads their cases and
Yep, I
destroys
love
their
this.
opinions, breaks the bars of death, and sets the prisoner free. This was Jesus' religion that he believed, he taught, and practiced. So, yeah. And he wrote this about himself. Okay. If your mind has been deceived by some invisible enemy into a belief, you have put it into the form of disease, with or without your knowledge. Okay, I'm going to try to play
And that's
this.
exactly what we
I
talk
don't
about
think,
today.
I'll go back and play this later.
But
'cause
we
I don't-
talk about that today.
Yeah.
This is what we are. If your mind has been deceived by some invisible enemy, then you have put you have put it into the form of disease, with or without your knowledge. That's when stuff happens, and we go, "How did that happen?" It's called race consciousness.
You think this will play?
What is it?
All right, but let's talk about that first. So yes, it's called race consciousness. He definitely, it was all about opinion. It was all about you took on this opinion of whoever and you manifested it. And so if some doctor told you you had something, you believed it and you had it, basically.
That's why when we talk about childhood or we talk about any of it, if somebody repeats something enough to you, we'll just use it because it's, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid. I just spoke to somebody the other day that completely has worked through all of that stupid moment in life. And one simple trigger threw this person back into that second grade experience. And so then you sit there and you go, wow, that's what it is. So the opinion of others, that's why he was so against it. Do not take anybody's opinion but yourself. It doesn't mean you don't get advice by somebody else's. But when you take, that's why I was just thinking, why it's not good to talk about things that you're about to do when you want to manifest. Because all you're going to do is get everyone's opinion in your mix. And then you will be confused by the end of it.
Ernest Holmes actually has that in some place. If you're going to do something, just don't talk about it until you've done it. Because unless you're talking to somebody you totally trust. Because people will put their opinions in it, and it will alter your feelings about it, right? You've done it. I know we've all done it. I've done it. You know what I think? Let's take a break right now, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll come back and I'll get this thing to play, all right? All right, so let's just take a break. It's a good time to take a break.
Is anybody, I'll turn it down. I mean, do you want, does anybody want any coffee? Okay, because I want to make, I couldn't talk while Rita was asking, but I'm going to make a pot. It's ready to go. Ready to be made.